Welcome back to the Ultimate Road, our series where we'll be playing through and reviewing games that make up Smash's roster, the majority of which being games neither of us have ever played before. Well, most of them anyway. We've only got a few months to go. We're going in the order of Smash's slots. Or at least that was the plan after we started playing Wario World. Just like Wario would, he's cutting ahead of the line by a huge margin. But after him, it's all in the order of the slots. With another two exceptions due to length, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anyway, Wario is a series that I've yet to really dive way too much into. My only experience with Wario games was a few small rounds of WarioWare with some friends once every blue moon. Other than that, I've never really been too enthused to try any of these quirky Mario spin-offs, but since we're doing the Ultimate Road either way, I may as well be the one to take my first dive into Wario's world with, well, you know, Wario World. Wario World is a bit of an oddball title. You never really hear many people talk about the game, and yet it's the only Wario platformer game on the GameCube. You'd think a Mario spin-off on a mainline Nintendo console would have more attention, but no. This seems to be one of the more obscure titles. Let's see, the game came out June 20th, 2003, day after my birthday, huh? What did it have to contend with that year anyway? Kirby Air Ride, Mario Kart Double Dash, Sonic Heroes, F-Zero GX. Yeah, Wario had some stiff competition on the GameCube that year. No wonder this flew under the radar. Now, believe it or not, Wario World was actually co-developed by Treasure, a company founded by former Konami devs that worked on titles such as Sin and Punishment, Gunstar Heroes, and Ikaruga, but have done many games partnered with companies like Sega, Square Enix, and, well, Nintendo. And one of the games to come out of that practice is this game here. Treasure has done some good work in the past, so who knows, maybe we're in for a good time. Now, I may be blowing my load early here, but the plot of Wario World is completely inconsequential. It means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. It basically boils down to this. Wario stole a jewel that turned out to be evil, the jewel fucked shit up for some little wood guys called the Spritelings, and now Wario has to stop it. But in perfect Wario fashion, he's not doing it because the jewel is evil, no, rather it's because the jewel stole all Wario's riches, and obviously Wario isn't having that shit. Saving the Spritelings means absolutely nothing to Wario, and in the manual, he even expresses that he doesn't like the Spritelings all that much. It's funny, really. Wario is a hero by total accident and is even rewarded at the end if he goes out of his way to save all the Spritelings. Wario is such a grimy piece of shit, and that makes him all the more hilarious to me. The graphics definitely do the job. The game completely reeks of that early 2000s game stank, if that makes any sense. You may not be able to describe it all that well, but you could definitely feel it if you play through enough games released around the time period. Use of muted colors starting to hit a trend, use of very cheap particle effects, platforming being stiff and awkward. Wario World has a lot of these elements sprinkled throughout the game. In the graphics department, the game can't even decide whether it wants to be bright and vibrant or muted with its colors. You have places like Green Horde Forest, where the greens really pop, and then you get the first carnival area and everything is this dull brass look. There's certainly a lot of variety in the locales you'll visit, and a good majority are visually appealing, but others are just slightly boring, and kind of remind me of a Windows 97 background or something. Music also follows that trend. Keep in mind that I actually played the games with the sound off, but I did get a chance to listen to the soundtrack of the game when reviewing our gameplay videos. I found that the music always fits the areas that they're played in, but very rarely did I ever hear a song I would describe as catchy. Which is surprising because I always thought that Wario would have a few kick-ass tracks here and there as a series. It seems they focus more on making the tracks fit the world themes rather than just being catchy, which is admirable, but I'd rather have a quality soundtrack of music that doesn't fit the themes on the whole, rather than a bunch of unmemorable but fitting music. It's not all bad, though. The first level theme is genuinely great, and the hub world reminds me of something straight out of Jet Set Radio. Other than that, though, I couldn't really describe anything. The gameplay is where I felt the early 2000s stank the most. This game is a beat-em-up platformer. You have punches, a ground pound, a near useless ram that serves more as a jump extender than an actual attack, and a small variety of throws and grapples that you can perform after knocking over an enemy. The beat-em-up portion of the game is pretty damn fun to begin with, but with there being no unlockable moves or any form of growth that keeps beat-em-ups from becoming stale, this gets boring about halfway through, and I found myself outright skipping enemies just to get a move on. Beating enemies and performing various other tasks nets you coins that, in true Wario style, you eat rather than collect. Well, you can run into them, but their hitboxes are so damn picky that, yeah, you just eat them. What's your incentive for collecting coins, you may ask? Well, that's where I draw a blank. The game tracks your coin, but there's no tally at the end of the game, nor is there any shop to spend coins on, other than this garlic guy that you can buy health from in a pinch. The only purpose I've found for coins other than that, though, is to pay off a toll to revive yourself if you run out of health. But by the time the game picks up in difficulty enough to kick your ass, you've surely got an extremely healthy amount of coins that you, more likely than not, will never run out of. So I have to question the coin mechanic in some light, because I'm assuming the only punishment one would really get from not having enough coins is just having to restart a level. So by all means, don't go out of your way to pick up every single coin you see. The game doesn't really punish you all too much for skipping them. Progression is handled in a pretty standard fashion. You go in a level, beat the level and the level's boss, and you move on to the next. Lather, rinse, repeat until all 4 main worlds are beaten. Though sometimes it's not just that. In each level, there's things to collect. Crystals that unlock the boss of the level, gold pieces to have a Wario statue that increase your health if you complete it, a bunch of shiny MacGuffins you can find in chests, and spritlings that are captured in a very Rayman-esque way that give you hints. The shiny MacGuffins aren't really all too important. Finding them only unlocks microgames that you can transfer to your GBA system. Pretty cool if you're a WarioWare fan, but I'm more than certain these microgames are easy enough to find on more modern WarioWare games. Now what I find admirable is that collecting all this stuff can be pretty fun in its own right. Some of these things can be found through these trapdoors that lead to mini areas that give you a platforming challenge or a little puzzle. These are the highlight of the game for me. They're small little shots of challenge thrown in a level for variety, and a majority of them are extremely precise and fun to complete. They're very much like those little secret areas in Mario Sunshine. It's great fun, and falling into a pit doesn't mean you're thrown into a Unithorn lair. What's a Unithorn? Well, I'm glad you asked. Unithorns are easily one of the most frustrating things about this game. You see, instead of the game killing you or taking health from you when you fall into a pit, instead you're chucked straight into a Unithorn lair. This does nothing but serve to waste your time, because you have to break open boxes to find a spring that will bring you back into the area you were. Break a wrong box and a bomb pops out. The Unithorns will also prick you in the butt or bite and shake you around to waste not only your time but your coins. I wouldn't be so bitter about this if the Unithorn layer wasn't in every single pit you come across in the game. It's not that it's bullshit difficulty or anything, and I appreciate the game trying to be unique in the way it handles its pitfalls, but this is just frustrating on how long it takes every time you fall. You'll be visiting these areas a lot actually, because the game likes to get kind of precise with its plot. The Unithorn designs aren't even that great either, they're just bean-looking ghost heads with horns on their noses. Actually, now that I think about it, enemies are another thing that are kind of bland in the game. With few exceptions, enemies are really just the same over and over, given a new coat of paint whenever needed to fit the area that you're in. That's a job, sure, but at least something to be desired, and it doesn't do much to spice up the gameplay that already gets old kind of fast. The regular enemies are kind of underwhelming. I actually can't say the same thing for the bosses. These bosses are actually pretty amazing at times. They've all got unique attack patterns and pretty cool designs too. And just like I would expect from a Wario game, more than a few of these designs make me extremely uncomfortable. Like I could think of about 5 bosses that I think I'll be seeing in therapy next week. Frickin' Oxbulge! After beating all the bosses though, you unlock a huge chest on the hub world, and out pops the final boss, the very same black jewel that stole all of Wario's riches. He's one of the most bland final bosses I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, what happened to all the creativity? You fight this thing on top of a giant transmutation circle, and all he does is shoot lasers to make walls of fire, and send out shockwaves for you to jump over. That is it. Nothing else. You break these little spritlings out of their crystal prisons to attack the jewel, and then pile drive him a couple of times, and he's done. No Form 2, no new attacks, not even a spike ball or two to keep you on your toes. That's it. Huh. Really underwhelming. And your reward in the end for saving all the spritlings is something that would bring back bitter memories of a certain wonderful vacation. The spritlings being easy to get is the only thing really keeping me from being angry about it. Wario World is a game that I feel lives and dies off of its charm. It's got that in truckloads. The driving force for me was beating the platforming challenges and seeing what new insane bosses lie around the corner. And, for a first playthrough, I certainly enjoyed what I played. I just don't see myself returning to this one very soon. It's not a bad game in any way, it does its job perfectly fine. And it never really asks all that much from the player except to just enjoy themselves, really, and I certainly did with this game, despite a few moments of aggravation and blandness. A perfectly average game that feels very of its time, although I do see why this game was completely buried by its competition back in 2003. That's another franchise out of the way, but I'm hoping we can kind of stay back on track when it comes to the order of things. I think I'm getting a bit of jungle fever. Next time on The Ultimate Road, both me and my partner will be tackling Donkey Kong Country for the first time. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned.